Hello everybody and welcome to another Twilight Zone Retro Review. Today it is Season 1, Episode 21, Mirror Image, written by Rod Serling and starring Vera Miles as Millicent Barnes and Martin Milner as Paul. We're getting there. 21 episodes in and Twilight Zone is still going well for the most part. Okay, so this episode has a different and interesting concept than what we've seen so far. Basically, we start with a woman, played by Vera Miles, at a bus stop. And she goes up to the elderly gentleman working behind the desk, and she asks him when the bus is coming because it's late. He gets very crabby and upset with her, very, very crabby. And he tells her, why does she keep asking over and over? Things don't change in, 10 minutes or the last 3 times you ask. And she says that this is the first time she's come up there. So this is the puzzling aspect of the episode. She also sees a bag behind the counter and seems puzzled about that. So we go on a little bit and she goes back up to the desks and asks the man about the bag. And the man tells her that she's the one that checked it in. And by this point, this guy is really, really just very crabby. This guy's not the best customer service rep ever, but, he just wants to read his magazine, I guess. What can you say? So, anyway, after this, she's really puzzled because she doesn't know anything about checking in the bag, and she figures it must be a bag similar to hers and not hers. So, in the next scene, we go to her, and she goes into the restroom, and pretty much the same thing happens. A woman tells her, she's been in there before. She insists she hasn't, but when she looks in the mirror, she sees an image of herself sitting outside on the bench where she was before. So now she's really starting to freak out as her bag is also back on the floor as well. So she's talking to herself about what could possibly be happening, and then we get to the second main character in the story, which is a man named Paul. And she basically explains her story to him. He tells her there's probably an explanation. Somebody probably looks like her. Maybe she's having delusions. Somebody could be playing a joke on her. And she's really not buying any of these explanations. And this scene, I thought, wasn't the best. This is the one complaint I have about the episode. Everything she explains to him, we as an audience pretty much have already seen and know. So it just feels like extra exposition to explain it to him. It feels a little bit padded. I mean, everything that she says we've already seen happen. We don't really need it repeated. But it's not terrible. And the episode once again gets better from there. They talk for a little bit longer and the bus finally arrives. They go to get on the bus. And as Millicent is ready to get on the bus, she does not. She screams and goes back inside the station. And a couple moments later, we see there is a double of her or someone that looks just like her smiling that is already on the bus. So when we get back into the station, as the man Paul stays behind as well, she gives another story about how she's heard something about parallel worlds and how each person has a double in the parallel world, and maybe that person has come out of that world for some reason to take over for her. Pretty interesting stuff for its time period. And so, of course, Paul is very skeptical of this. He goes back up to talk to the elderly gentleman behind the counter. They talk, and they come to the conclusion that she needs professional help, that she's not thinking clearly, and so Paul calls the police. He draws her outside, telling her they need to get some air, and the police take her away for observation, which is another thing that's a little bit shaky. Would they just come in and grab someone like that? I'm not really sure about that. It's just kind of a weird scene, but it's okay, I guess. And so basically this leaves, just the elderly gentleman and Paul in the station. The elderly gentleman tells him he has, I think, 4 hours or so to wait for the next bus. So Paul says maybe he'll just rest till then. But after he goes to get a drink of water, he notices that his bag is missing. and he sees a figure that looks like him going out the door. So the episode ends with Paul running outside and basically seeing a double of himself. And we get Rod Serling's ending narration, and so we now know that there really was a double of her. She wasn't crazy, and I'm not sure if we're to assume that everybody's double is coming out or just a few, but the main concept of this episode is interesting, and I do like the episode overall. There's a couple little things here and there that feel like padding that slow the pacing down of this episode. Like I said, the middle exposition scene really isn't very good, and some of the plot points just seem a little bit odd, like the treatment of Millicent toward the end of the episode with them just taking her away with no explanation or anything. I'm not sure about that during that time period, but overall this is a very solid and memorable episode, and it does have a creepy mood. This is another win for Rod Serling and the Twilight Zone group, and I give Mirror Image a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 for Mirror Image. Thanks for watching.